Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of These Things Are Written. I have to apologize a little bit for yesterday's Bible study. I was tired when I recorded it, and I think you could tell. There were a couple of places there where I said the wrong word. That happens to me often, but even more so when I'm tired, so I apologize. Paul was sent, of course, to the Gentiles and not to the Jews. That was one of the big ones, but you probably caught that as we went on. I'm much more well-rested today, so we are going to continue our focus on Paul as he's in Jerusalem, being held by the tribune, who's trying to figure out what Paul did to get the Jews to want to kill him. We're picking up our reading with Acts chapter 22, verse 30. We are going through 23, verse 11. But on the next day, desiring to know the real reason why he was accused by the Jews, he, the tribune, unbound him, Paul, and commanded the chief priests and all the council to meet. And he brought Paul down and set him before them. And looking intently at the council, Paul said, "Brothers, I have lived my life before God in all good conscience up to this day." And the high priest, Ananias, commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, "God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. Are you sitting to judge me according to the law? And yet, contrary to the law, you order me to be struck?" Those who stood by said, "Would you revile God's high priest?" And Paul said, "I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest. For it is written, you shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people." Now, when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, "Brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of a Pharisee. It is with respect to the hope and the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial." And when he had said this, a dissension arose between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor angel, nor spirit, but the Pharisees acknowledge them all. Then a great clamor arose, and some of the scribes of the Pharisee party stood up and contended sharply. "We find nothing wrong in this man. What if a spirit or an angel spoke to him?" And when the dissension became violent, the tribune, afraid that Paul would be torn to pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down and take him away from among them by force and bring him into the barracks. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, "Take courage, for as you have testified to the facts about me in Jerusalem, you must also testify in Rome." This is the word of the Lord. As we look at this, there are a few different things that stick out to me as I was looking at it. First of all, the tribune knows that he needs to protect Paul, because Paul is a Roman citizen and he had not been so nice trying to have him first of all, having him arrested, bound, and then almost beaten. Those were no-nos for a Roman soldier who was not convicted of any crime. So wanting to get to the bottom of the issue, he called the Sanhedrin, the Jewish ruling council, to see what the problem was, why they were wanting to kill Paul or to have him put to death. Paul struck first, not physically, but verbally. He commented a simple but yet straightforward truth. He said, "Brothers, I have lived my life before God in all good conscience up to this day." And that is the truth. Think back to Paul's life. He was persecuting the church because he thought that was God's will. Once Jesus spoke to him, he changed and did whatever he could to go to the Jews first and then to the Gentiles. But yet, as he was speaking that truth, he was struck for telling the truth. Paul pointed out the hypocrisy, that he's on trial for breaking the law, but yet they broke the law by ordering him to be struck. It was a high priest who had said that, and you couldn't speak evil against it. Paul realized that, and afterwards he apologized for speaking against, because again, he is a law-abiding Jew. He is a Pharisee, but yet he's a Christian as well. He becomes all people, all things to all people. Remember that fact. Paul showed his wisdom, his ability to understand people. He could see that things were going against him, and he knew what he needed to do. He kind of sidetracked the whole discussion. He again spoke the truth. He said, brothers, I am a Pharisee, son of a Pharisee. It is with respect to the hope and the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial. All of that was true. But he knew that by bringing up the resurrection and that he was a Pharisee, that would cause a division between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Remember, they were all part of the Jewish ruling council. The Sadducees were the minority. They were the power people, however. They taught the Torah only. They didn't believe that the prophets and the Psalms were part of God's inspired word. Only the first 5 books of the Old Testament. They didn't believe in angels or the spirit or soul or in the resurrection. The Pharisees, they believed in the whole Old Testament as we know it. They were the majority, but yet they were very law-focused. Obedience to the law is what they sought. Neither were Christians, but Pharisees believed in the resurrection. Sadducees didn't, so there became a division between them. And they started arguing, and it sounds as though it became violent. The tribune wanted to protect Paul, scared that he would be torn to pieces by them, it says in the Bible. Paul had been warned that difficult things were going to happen to him. He had been warned by different prophets of what was going to happen, but yet he followed God's will. He followed what God wanted him to do. And now the Lord speaks to him and says, take courage, for as you have testified to the facts about me in Jerusalem, so you must testify also in Rome. God has more plans for him. He has passed the test in Rome. God will protect him. And now he needs to speak that in Rome as well. God was working through Paul. We see God at work throughout the way. And when we look back at things, we can see God at work in our lives as well. Come back tomorrow and we'll talk more about how God protected Paul and how he provided his mission to Rome to continue. Go in peace. We'll see you tomorrow.